Welcome to the Grapevine Show.
Yo!
What's up, man? So the reason I have to say that, Eric, is because for those watching, if you don't know, this is also now a podcast. So it's a show and now a podcast. So just got to make sure we get our introductions in that way we're ready when people
That's
are
a good point. That's a very good point. Because you're gonna turn this into a podcast now, so they can't see us. Like they just have to listen to us.
Exactly. Right.
They can't look at our beautiful faces.
It's a 2-for-1, right? I watched that Johnny Supertech video and I seen what he said. I don't know if you've seen that 1-minute video, but it's all about getting a 2-for-1. So I started thinking long and hard. And I'm like, man, how do we get more for our money? 2-for-1. So, we need to turn this into a radio show.
Hey, it feels like something's missing here. By the way, who the heck are you?
Well, hold on. It's funny you say that. It's kind of quiet in the room.
It is a little quiet in the room.
You know what I mean? It's like there's this Jamoke who's just not here, who's kind of loud and proud. I kind of miss him, to be honest with you. The show's just not the same.
Me too.
Where is Mike?
Where is Mike?
I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. He definitely didn't tell us he wasn't going to make it, so we'll see what happens here. All right, so until he does show up, I'm Chris Hughes, one of the hosts.
I'm Eric Kaiser.
There we go. Our host of the Grapevine Show. And today we've got a special guest. We've got Shelby from Conduit. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. Hey, Shelby, how are you?
Hello. Nice to see you both.
Welcome, Shelby.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Shelby, we hate to disappoint. We don't know if Mike's going to make it or not.
Well, I hope he's having a wonderful Easter day somewhere. Maybe he's just, passed out from all of the sugar that he may have consumed, or I hope he consumed, and is enjoying a beautiful rest.
That kind of reminds me of a text message we got this morning from a friend of ours that said she was going to go eat so many jelly beans she was likely going to throw up. So who knows? Oh,
it's the right amount of jelly beans.
Hey,
there he is.
Is it working? Is everything working here?
Are you in a sugar coma from too many jelly beans or what?
Bro, I'm sweating, man. This technical difficulties is for the birds, man.
Let's be honest, man. You're raiding your kid candy stash.
I'm so sorry for being late, guys.
Better late than never.
Had to restart the computer like 3 times.
We're just going to deduct it from your candy stash.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
You got to take 3 minutes off my pay.
Absolutely.
Right on. All right. Let's hop right into this conversation. Shelby, a different way to do manual J, right? So first, give us like the 2-minute spill of what Conduit is, and then I'd like to go into your background and start from the beginning and how did this thing formulate?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's nice to be here. And about Conduit. So Conduit launched officially over 2 years ago now. And we are a startup focused on helping contractors do quality work and use it both as a sales and customer engagement tool, as well as a means to get to an accurate load calculation. And so what we are leveraging is LiDAR, which is a technology that's now very common in iPhone and iPad devices. We're using that technology to scan a home, build out an anonymized 3D model, 2D floor plan, and a load calculation all in about 15 minutes or less. And the whole goal of it is not only to get an ACT certified load coming out of it, but it is also to engage your customer in that process. Because previously, if you were doing a load calculation, you were not doing it in front of the homeowner. They were seeing only the inputs to it, but not seeing what the results were and why they really mattered. And maybe it's not specifically the number, but being able to explain this is what's going into this process. These are the things that we're taking down, and this is all happening while I'm on site in front of you, and you're able to get that sort of engagement with your customer and show the work that you're putting in there. And I think that's overall why Conduit exists, is to help showcase the quality work that's being done every single day and in every single one of these installs, and make it a little bit easier to do it at the same time.
I can't believe it's been around for 2 years.
I can't believe it either. That it's wild to me. So we were founded like March 30th, 2022. So literally yesterday was our birthday. And
happy birthday!
Thank you. I mean, it's my favorite birthday to celebrate because it's 2 years old. But it is. We've been working on this for about 3 years in total.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And you said LiDAR. What can we currently use right now for applications?
So right now, if you have an iPhone Pro or an iPad Pro that has been released in probably the last 2 to 3 years, you probably already have LiDAR in your pocket. And that's one of the reasons we started building based off of that, is because it's already available to folks. And it in some cases, you do need to invest in a newer iPad or a newer iPhone, but for a lot of folks, they already have it available. And I think that's something for us when we looked at how many tools, how many technologies folks are dealing with on a given day, that anything we could do to streamline it a little bit more could be very meaningful.
So I got a question for, this is going to turn into a podcast and everyone listening as well. When you say LiDAR, I imagine there's quite a few people who still haven't touched that technology. Could you give us like a layman's version of what LiDAR means?
Honestly, that's the only version I could give if I wanted to. So LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. And what it really means is that it's taking these sensors that are part of like that camera box on the back of these iPads and iPhones, and it's using those sensors to send out light beams. And then it measures the time that it takes for them to come back or bounce back off of whatever wall, window, door, whatever it is, measures that amount of time to determine the distance that it actually translates from where you sent that light beam. And that's how it's working. I think it's very similar to other forms of camera technology.
That's like echolocation, like with dolphins.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Now, for the 80s kids, the same technology is from the Predator, okay? When you throw that visor on, it was like scanning when it's got the little... All right, never mind. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say I had read a book. It's been a few years back, and I'm going to butcher this, but I'm going to try to say what I remembered. It was a Neil Tyson Degrassi book about astrophysics for people in a hurry. And what you just kind of described is very similar to how we figured out that the universe was constantly expanding. And I want to say it was microwaves. We were looking at things in the sky and we could see the color of heat because we had, the camera we were using extrapolated the different colors of light. And so we would look at different points of the space and we would get a color of light, right? And there's a time limit for that to come back. And then we would look at it again, I don't remember the timeline, but basically we looked at it a second time and the light color had changed. And by looking at that light, we knew that the entire universe was expanding from all directions. I don't know if y'all knew that, but
he loves Neil deGrasse Tyson. He loves him.
Yeah, he's I don't know. I like to read his material. He's pretty good about, breaking things down somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah. It's a tough read.
He's still crazy smart. So, like you, that guy is a trip.
So LiDAR. So makes me wonder if LiDAR. I need to do some reading in the LiDAR. I wonder is it also breaking that beam of light down into different colors, or is it literally just using time, right? Time and distance kind of together on that specific color of light. Like, does the light in the room have to be bright? Like, if the room's kind of dark, could it be problematic?
If it is kind of dark, it could be problematic if you can't have a supplementary flashlight. But I would say, like, the room I'm in right now, it hopefully doesn't look too dim on your end. It's a little dim in here right now, but it would work just fine. If it is like pitch black, there's no light in it, it wouldn't work, right? Because it needs some ambient light to be able to register and sort of like determine where is this happening from. So definitely light is required. And I think part of that is also when you're using this, there's plenty of applications of LiDAR sensors out outside of an HVAC, but there is, it's used in self-driving cars. And that application, what you have there is very different sensors than the ones that you're going to have in your iPad or your iPhone, and probably a little bit more expensive if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tesla does it a little bit with the cameras that, they're all over the car.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's fascinating technology. I feel like I need
it's
to go
cool.
like down a super big rabbit hole and read more about it.
Uh-oh.
I feel like
Chris is going to do some LiDAR for airflow.
no, I'm thinking you got me curious on that Tesla car with LiDAR. I didn't know Tesla used LiDAR technology with light to.
I'm pretty sure it does, because it does. It's like
If it does, I'm gonna have to dig into that, because that means
cool.
like, are they breaking? What are they looking for in the dark? Because it's got to work in the dark, right? So that's fascinating to me. I want to read about that. All right,
gonna hit up the Google.
enough about LiDAR.
Yeah, let's move on. Load couch, right?
We got a quick question here.
Okay.
Got one?
What about the Surface Pro?
We got somebody watching?
Unfortunately, Microsoft devices have not come out yet with LiDAR on it, which is very unfortunate for all of our loyal Android or Microsoft users. But one of the things that we've noticed, and we cheered at Conduit when we saw this, but Apple has really doubled down on sort of both augmented reality and then also just visualization of space. And that's one of the reasons that they are embedding LiDAR sensors into their devices. So when they came out with that random little headset, that headset is all about how do you visualize the space around you. And so these LiDAR sensors that Apple is investing in is all about how do we help create spatial awareness and use that as a piece of this. So it's interesting because I think that the Android of the world and the Microsofts of the world are not investing yet in that, because that might not be part of their strategy, but it maybe could be down the road. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think Pokemon Go started all this.
And that's actually I think that's pretty wise. Like, I think it was very compelling. Like, people love catching them.
Everything starts with a video game,
When I saw people at my local park just walking around in circles with their phones, I looked into it. I was like, holy smokes, this is some crazy technology. But yeah, I think that blew it up, man. That was crazy.
Shelby, do you think you're going to get into using the headsets for anything? Do you think that's coming?
I have no idea. That one's definitely above my pay grade. I have no idea how those headsets could be used, but I can't imagine that there's tons of really cool applications. And I know some companies are already using them for training purposes, and I think you could do so. But I also can't really imagine somebody coming into my home and then walking around wearing a headset, which would be, at the very minimum, be really interesting to see.
You guys could pull it off, because like that technology, you walk around with that headset. It's got like 6 cameras on the front, but you guys kill it already with the iPhone or the iPad, so it'd be like something just to do when you guys get rolling.
Eric, if you had a question?
Yeah, so like I had talked to Shelby and her business partner early on about these, and you had mentioned at that time that it was only on the iPad Pro. When did that change where it's working on the iPhone? Because it's the Pro, only on the Pro, right?
That's correct. And so the iPhone Pro has had LiDAR sensors as part of it since the 12. And then we just started actually beta testing the iPhone Pro as well as a potential secondary device. We're evaluating it. I would say that one of the biggest challenges is no matter how big these phones feel in your hand, once you try and do something that's like mildly technical or requires your fingers to move on it, you suddenly feel like you have really fat fingers. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is we're beta testing an iPhone version as well. That we just started doing like last week.
Nice.
That's awesome. And then just to be safe, which just any iPad Pro?
It's only the more recent ones. So I think it came out in 2020. I have a full list of the generations, but 2021, if you have a 2021 model newer, you'll definitely have the sensors as part of it. It's interesting because I think they released it in the iPad Pro started coming out in 2018, 2019, but the ones with LiDAR came out in 2020. You'd think that they had a different name for them, but they kept everything the same name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay,
Michael House would know.
You're beta testing. Yeah, House is putting
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff in the comments here right now. Like, and just in case you want to know, I think you got to volunteer for beta testing that iPhone version.
Jason,
there.
you'll be hearing from me for sure.
They just uploaded a video. Yesterday, Julian?
Yeah, I saw that.
It was a good video.
They always are. Honestly, I love watching them. It's my favorite thing.
He's got good videos. That was awesome.
So, Shelby, I want to pick your background. Can you take us down a journey? Tell us like how you got to this point. Like, where does it start for you?
Yeah. So it probably starts, I went back to school in 2018 to learn more about energy efficiency and try and figure out how can we structure sort of these triple win scenarios where everyone can benefit from both having more stable grid, but also providing benefits to whether it be businesses or individuals. And I started actually working for an industrial energy efficiency company in 2019 while in grad school. And that company was serving the pulp and paper sector. They still exist. They're still doing amazing work. But one of the things that I kept finding was that it felt really distant from the end homeowner or the end person that it was impacting, even though everyone uses toilet paper and paper towels for the most part. And so what I started exploring and met Marissa along this journey was how can I get a little bit closer to the end homeowner, to smaller businesses than massive corporations that are making decisions for 10 years from now? And how can I start making a bigger impact on both more human beings, but also on the grid and energy efficiency more broadly? And that's what got me really interested into residential energy efficiency. There's so many micro decisions made every single day by homeowners. On the surface, it looked like also by contractors, by utilities, by so many different people. And so I just started learning. And I started talking to as many people who would let me, which was shockingly so many people who were willing to spare their time and just have a conversation with us and share their insights on whatever their industry was. I met Marissa about 6 months into just embarking on this learning journey, and that's when things really started to pick up. We started to talk to as many folks as we could, and we very quickly narrowed in on that we wanted to learn from contractors and see how could we support them first and foremost, because the more we learned about the space, the more we realized how much burden was being placed on the contractor rather than anyone else. If you looked at any utilities plans, they all relied on the contractor doing the paperwork. If you looked at any homeowner decision, it all required the contractor to make the suggestion, put together the paperwork again, and help them understand what the right solution would be for their home. And the more we learned about that, the more we realized, well, this is a lot being asked increasingly of this one community, on top of all these other broader trends that are happening, whether it be workforce development challenges, whether it be refrigerant changes, the list goes on and on. And so that's where we started to focus in on for the 9 months before we even started Conduit.
Yeah, we got a lot of going on in our trade, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts going on.
Yeah.
A2Ls, load calculations definitely, like, thank God we're finally getting upgrades. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right?
technologies are starting to populate, and that's really nice.
I downloaded my first load calc software, and I just wanted to throw the laptop across the room. So
yeah, I remember those days, man. I didn't come out of trade school knowing load calculation.
Do you remember the first symposium when we met? Like, I brought my laptop to you. I was like, dude, help me out with this. This is crazy.
I remember doing a load calculation on my laptop. I still have that computer. Actually, it's here's a funny joke for you. This is my Microsoft Surface. Ooh. I don't even use it anymore. But this works really good for my Apple mouse, right?
That's an expensive
yeah.
What do you call that?
Man, I hope somebody from Microsoft just seen that,
I think we just found a good use for Microsoft products.
Yeah,
they make good
Apple mouse pads. It's still got like man, I don't even want to say the name. WS, right? My loads from those days are still on there, and that computer hasn't died. I'll probably never need them, but
yeah.
they're there. But no, I like that laptop, but it started doing something where like once it would get hot, the screen would chatter. I don't know what that's all about, but apparently it's a big deal across the Surface, and I also have it. And then I read a thread where people were like putting their computer in a freezer to cool it down, and that would make it quit chattering on the screen.
That's great. Yeah,
No,
that's good technology right there, baby.
Yeah.
Your computer's got a fever.
that's right.
Throw it in the freezer.
I mean, there are literal stands for gaming laptops that have cooling systems in the bottom of them just to cool the laptop down. But I remember seeing the first one that my brother-in-law was the first one I knew that had one, and he's showing me this, and I'm like, dude, why don't you just get a gaming computer? He's like, yeah, but I got my gaming computer at home, but I can carry this with me to my buddy's house. And I'm like, holy cow.
So here's a topic I just want to throw to the crowd, and you guys just discuss it and let me know what you think. So I was reading in the comments, we should address this. You're doing a change out, right? You're replacing an existing system. Why is it important to run that load calculation, even though maybe or maybe not, it was ran during the existence of the house in the beginning? Anybody want to take that one?
Don't ask me, man.
I figured you were going to throw that to Shelby and let her run through it.
She can. It's free game, man. It's free game.
Don't ask me. I'm going to sound like I'm paid off or something.
What do you say, Shelby? You want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take it, and then Eric can add on. But what I was going to say is, I mean, the first piece is that, one, you want to make sure that what was in the home in the first place was the right thing. And then the second thing is that what changes have been made to the home since the last time that system was replaced. I think about my parents' house all the time. Their air conditioning unit, they really never run it, is 22 years old. And I can tell you for a fact that they have way too much cooling capacity for that home. But if you ask my parents, it's perfectly sized because, because why wouldn't it be? Yeah. Fortunately, they live in California, but so it's a dry climate, and they wouldn't experience any humidity concerns there. But if I were to go back, they probably need half of the cooling capacity that they actually have. As an example, they have, for about 3,000 square feet, they have 10 tons of air conditioning.
Oh
so at most, I would say, I think a 5 ton would even be generous. And you ask I love my parents.
Where in California?
10 tons, bro.
In the South Bay. So it is a very mild climate. I think the design condition in the summer is 85 degrees at most.
Is that 200 square foot per ton?
3,000 square foot?
All right, let me get my phone.
3,000 square feet has 10 tons of air conditioning capacity.
3,000.
That's 4 times what they need. I'm going to put money on 4 times.
That's 300 square foot per ton.
Yeah. They need like 2.5, maybe 3 at the most, is my guess.
Shoosh.
That's my guess.
Do they have a commercial kitchen and make like tacos and stuff?
No. They have a beautiful home. And albeit
15 fireplaces,
but they got 2 fireplaces, single pane windows.
Okay.
But it definitely is not 10 tons. And I think that
is like one wall made out of 90% of glass and it outlooks the ocean.
It doesn't outlook the ocean. It outlooks a bunch of shade.
Okay.
So it's
all right.
Wow.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
How many months out of the year do they turn this air conditioner? These, because I'm assuming there's 2 at least in there, right?
We grew up in a very energy efficiency centered household, which means that if it's 95 degrees outside, we will only run the air conditioning in the case that there's wildfires and you can't open the windows. So that's why that air conditioning unit is still standing after 22 years. It's not because, or those 2 units are still standing.
They don't run it.
It's not because they were correct.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 2.5 to 3 tons. That's my guess.
Eric, you know what would be a cool story if she told us like this is the reason why I started doing low calc businesses, because my parents have a 10 tons on 3,000 square foot home.
Cow.
That'd be really cool.
I
should
did joke.
She should start
South
with that.
You know,
I
It's
do
South
joke.
Bay.
It was very, very uncomfortable. It's a beautiful home. I loved growing up there. Very, very uncomfortable from an air conditioning and heating perspective.
That's a good one.
that's a really interesting problem to deal with, though, because if you come across a house like that, that's a huge game changer of how to handle that properly. What I mean by that is, let's say you
Right.
got 10 tons. Let's just say they actually did duct work right on 10 tons. You got 10 tons worth of duct work, and you need, let's say, 3 tons of cooling. That's a manual D nightmare on your hands potentially. Like, how do you address that situation? I know we all know, or some of us have read up on, bigger ducts are okay, but when you start thinking about 3 tons of air on 10 tons of duct work on a big house, you got to think about air mixing, right? So when does the point come when you have to start removing ducts from the insanely oversized duct system?
Well, the good news is their ductwork is actually all outside because, again, California, it's in an unconditioned crawl space. So there's a lot more opportunity.
Over there in the corner.
No,
what
I hear you.
house said?
I hear that. Put smaller diffusers in. I 100% agree with that move, but we're talking like a lot of diffusers right here, right now. And then you're talking about sheetrock work to like shrink every box. This is a very picky problem.
Just put some
Chris,
donuts in there,
Chris.
That's all.
Whoa, buddy.
Don't even
have you even tested this yet?
No, but I mean, you can go look up manual grills.
How do you know everything in there is not too small already?
I don't know.
He's jumping to conclusions. You're right,
jumping to
Eric.
Conclusions, man.
Don't
This
you
is
do it. He's been out of the field for
this dude
too
over here
long.
is like the testing man, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's too big."
All right,
You gotta test. You gotta throw the true flow grid in there, right?
I was just gonna go into manual D strategy, man, and have some fun.
I think that's he was going down talking points, action items. That's what it was.
He was going down roads like he's in that zone from being a contractor now, and he's not thinking like somebody that's got test equipment. He's thinking like stuff he did like 20 years ago.
Sounds like
maybe even 10 years ago.
Project, man.
He's beating you up.
I
Get
know.
him. Get him, Eric.
I don't even know why I come on this show.
Next week, Chris is going to be by himself.
Yeah.
Everybody's fired.
We got to figure out what we're doing next week, but because
Yeah, we'll
I think
figure it
Chris and I could do it together from Minneapolis next week, maybe.
So, Shelby, so how does the startup begin, right? So you figured out you wanted to do Conduit, right? Like, did you and Marissa like get together and you're like, we need to handle up on load calculations? Like, how did the load calculation part, the manual J part, come into play? Like, what was like the light bulb that goes off and goes, that's what we're doing?
I think it's more just a series of insights and conversations over time. So we started working together about 3 years ago, and the first 3 months was just figure it out on like, who do we want to build something for? Where do we see there's like demand or need or whatever it is? And then we started then exclusively interviewing that segment of people that we wanted to be our customers. So we spoke to about 200 contractors before we even started building anything, and just asked them like, what keeps you up at night was like the first question we would ask. And so this was in early 2022. So labor was a big deal. The second thing was being able to like convert sales. They would go out on a lot of sales visits, but maybe not convert them. And then the third thing was just consistent quality of work from more junior folks who were entering into the field. And that was not throwing shade at them. It was just, hey, like it takes time to train people. We need better ways to do so. And those were the 3 consistent themes we heard time and time again at the beginning of 2022, besides equipment shortages, which was another thing that we're like, we can't solve that. We're not even going to try. We can't solve it. But we just started learning and listening. And I think one of the main things that was important was that we'd ask people what their biggest pain points were. And they'd be like, I can get through it. It's like, okay, but like, if it could be better, what would it look like? Or what is like really painful? And just try and think about what are the ways that technology from outside the industry could support that. And I think what we narrowed in on was like, there's so much opportunity throughout each piece of this. And I think everybody on this time right now is working on a different piece of this. But I think one of the things that we saw was there's a big opportunity to streamline a lot of what we call like unbillable work that happens before an install. There are so many things. When I go on a ride along, I'm constantly shocked by how much just the comforted professional in the home has to get done while they're inside the home, and how many different platforms they're moving between, and how many different technologies or tools they're using while they're there, in the best case scenario, if they're spending 2 hours in the home. And every single part of, I think, this industry sort of operates like this. If you're doing a really great job, you're moving between a lot of different things and there's no like one streamlined process. And when you look at other industries, everything can integrate into each other. There's tools for each piece of the workflow that we just didn't see in HVAC. And that's what we started building towards. It only became clear that we wanted to start with system design and start with load calculations. Then we started building load calculations. People told us it was actually useful. They're like, can you please be ACCA certified? And we're like, sure, not understanding that was actually a lot of work. And we went down the process of getting certified because that was what became really important, which then made us a really robust manual J tool. And so then now we're in the phase where we finally get to be building and expanding beyond that, because we have built that foundation. And of course, there's continuous improvements in that core product. But what we started doing was our first product we released, 3 months in to working on it. We released something that we tested the visuals with contractors. Then another 3 months later, we tested something else, and we just kept getting feedback based off of what we released, which then just determined which direction we went down. That was a mouthful, so I'm going to pause there.
No, it was good.
No, it's cool. It's cool stuff.
I'm kind of curious to hear about the ACCR accreditation roadmap. I know
You have
that
to talk to Wes.
Yeah.
Marissa, my co-founder, talked to Wes, I think, every day for a couple weeks.
He's
Wes
awesome.
might block our calls going forward. He's the nicest man. He might be done with us because he's seen a lot of us and heard from us a lot. But no, he was amazing, as was the entire ACCA team as we went through the process. But yeah, it took about 6 months. And what we did I really can't say I did any of this. I did zero of this. This was entirely my co-founder, Marissa, led this with our VP of engineering, Gavin, and they built over 200 product features just to get certified. So every little thing from inadequate exposure diversity to thinking about like the orientation of windows to thinking about, how are we going to add in additional ventilation, every single piece of that was something that was required by the manual J and and the accreditation process. And that was something that we built out, made sure that it met their standards, went through tests, cases, things like that to make sure that it met what they were looking for. And that for us was a huge vote of confidence. It also helps us make sure that we're delivering on the accuracy that we want to deliver for our customers. And it is something that I'm very, very happy that we have achieved, but had zero role in it myself.
It's a lot of stuff. I mean, picture a regular HVAC guy trying to get into it. It's like so much. It can go anywhere you want to go. You want to go ventilation, you want to get window tinting, you want to go down like R value and degradation of attic insulation. I spent many nights on YouTube, just like my eyes were just bleeding. I'm like, what is going on? So it's cool.
Mike's YouTube certified.
I'm YouTube certified.
So I think this is a fantastic question here from Jason, Marissa. Or I'm sorry, Shelby.
I'm honored to be confused with her, honestly.
You were talking about Marissa and like that's the word that came out. So yeah, I think this is a great question.
Design. Okay.
Like this kind of, to me, is one of the other steps that, and I'm going to add on to this. What about like Manual S as far as equipment selection and things like that? Is there any plans to like integrate that into the app going forward?
So on Manual S, we will be releasing something in the coming weeks around guidance, more around like how do you actually think about Manual S. We won't be including equipment data in the short term, mostly because that is a hefty feat to try and acquire that and keep it accurate. And that's actually our biggest concern is, sure, we can offer, some HRI data, but what is actually needed to be able to perform equipment matchups for a lot of the manufacturers might go beyond the HRI data. Very likely goes beyond in almost every case. But what we want to make sure is that we don't give something that is inaccurate. In terms of duct design and duct evaluation, this is actually a huge area of discovery for us right now. We know we need to build more in the ductwork category, and we definitely want to build out more tools to be able to support. And the reason I say duct evaluation, not maybe full manual D right now, is because we'll take the same approach that we took with load calculations, where we started releasing something that was accurate, but the goal to be a test, a prototype of it, and then we release one thing at a time, get feedback on it, see that that's the right direction, then release more. And that's how the approach that we'll take on duct evaluation as well. Is the first thing is trying to make sure folks understand airflow by room. The next thing is going to be making sure that people can document in whatever way makes the most sense, whether it be in 3D or 2D or augmented reality, what is going on inside that home. And these are the things that we'll be testing and iterating over the course of the next few months.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, realistically, there's not a lot of companies out there that do full on equipment performance data. So I think being able to input the equipment performance data and just have it all in one place, like have the load calculation data automatically feed into that. So you don't have to type all the load calculation data in to do the next manual S calculation. You just put a little bit more of equipment in there and select the parameters, especially from the new manual S, because there's some changes in that. I think that's going to be a really cool thing.
I agree. I think it'd be hard to maintain it, right? Like new equipment's SEER changes, all the, constant changes.
Well, and especially from all the different manufacturers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if the manufacturers have a hard enough time maintaining it themselves and then trying to maintain that in another app and pulling in for the data from all the different manufacturers and trying to get them to give it to you whenever that comes out. I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, but it is nice. It's a nice feature.
Oh, it's a nice feature. I agree.
Yeah,
100%. But
I'm with you. If I could wave a magic wand, that was one of the questions we used to ask people. If I could wave a magic wand, what would I be able to do? And it'd be all the manufacturers would just give us their data. But
right.
Well, and one of the
and give it to the
biggest,
contractors too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges I see with the manufacturers is that a lot of them don't list their data in a uniform in a uniform method between manufacturers, right? It's slightly different from each manufacturer as far as their performance data is concerned. And that starts to make things challenging because you can't just make a method of pulling that data in one way. Now you have to make a different way for each manufacturer depending on how they put the data out.
Yeah, they don't want to make things simple.
No,
they like to be complicated, be a pain in the ass, these manufacturers.
Well, I think that they just like to do it their own way because that's the way they've always done it. And each one has their own specific way. Well, it takes a lot. It's a big lift for them internally to change that. So why spend the time and change something just because? If it's working for them, why would they change it? Because that's extra money.
He did do a manual S extrapolator. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, he said he's got an API for manual S already.
Of course he does.
Only work, dude. Right? I'm looking at it. I'm like, what did he build?
Yeah,
just plug that in there, man. I'm telling you.
Next week, House will just have a spaceship.
That's it.
You should just hire a House to help us get to Mars.
That's it.
We're not there because House is not on the project. That I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah, I think you may be accurate there.
Come on, Mike. Step up.
I have a question, Shelby, about the load calculation program. So something that I would like a hot topic, I think that's it's probably been around forever, but it's, I definitely didn't learn this early on. But when you're dealing with part load conditions, right? And you want to look at like the runtime, what's this unit going to run when we're in part load conditions? And I know it's a struggle getting the information from the equipment manufacturer saying, okay, what's the minimum run capacity? Like I've seen brands that will publish that, but I guess what I'm asking is, does the load calculation software that you have, can you go in and change the dry bulb temperature to see what that's going to, how's that going to report in low load conditions?
Right now, you can change the design conditions, but you can't change a specific temperature to simulate like what is it exactly at this point in time, or to understand like what is it in a, like if it's running, as you said, in a part load conditions, you can't simulate that specific instance. The main thing that we'll do is we'll show you the load curves that pop up, and they're mostly driven by fenestration on the cooling side. And you'll see the fenestration load curve, and what it'll show is it'll highlight the cases where you will definitely want to consider at least a variable speed equipment to support that. But I would say that's right now not something we do particularly well.
I don't know of anybody who's doing that yet, where you can, and what I'm getting at is like changing the outdoor conditions, right, to show what the load's going to be in the highest dew point portion of that year. That way you can kind of look at that capacity and compare that to the minimum capacity to see how that unit's going to operate in high moisture, situations. I feel like we got to get there some kind of way. So you asked earlier, if I closed my eyes and asked what I really wanted.
I love it.
No,
it's good. I'm taking notes actually as we go, because this is this is actually the second time I've ever heard that asked, but the second time in this week, which is interesting. Depends how you count Sunday as the beginning or the end of the week. But
no, that would be pretty cool if it was, if we could do that feature.
And then dumb that down for the listeners. I mean, you're talking about manual J accounts for what?
But manual J,
the highest average.
Well, manual J is based on peak design, right?
Design.
So you have peak heating design, peak cooling design, but then there should be one called peak moisture design, right? That's where your sensible load is not way up, it's down, but your moisture is way, way up, right? Higher than it would be at peak sensible load. And so your equipment's not running, and how do you get the moisture out of the house? That's peak moisture load. So the question, what you need to see the house load under the shoulder season condition, so you know what the load is against the house. That's step number one. Step number two would be, you now need to see what this, let's say it's an inverter and it can ramp down. What's the minimum it can run down to, right?
Right.
And so if you know that, and you have that part load load on the house, now you can see how they match up.
And then your manual S can give you like a flag that your Daikin equipment doesn't dehumidify in low stage.
Well,
that's all about equipment operation, and it doesn't know that.
Okay.
That's
a different ball game right there.
Gotcha.
That are going to happen in this process, right? And maybe people are holding back because of the assumptions, because like shoulder season, cloudy day, fenestration games, infiltration, wind, all of that becomes just like more and more. But we have that problem already in peak load conditions, so I don't see why it doesn't matter. Like we got to get somewhere with it, right? A baseline and make it simple to know basically. And the reason is, if you put an inverter based system in and you don't have the sensible heat factor of that coil and how much water it's going to remove in minimum run capacity, right, you could do a moisture load. Like if you have Anthony Cox's app, Anthony Cox has like a moisture load calculator, right? So you can determine the moisture in your house based on the variables. It's probably pretty accurate, right? With the variables considered, there's some, let's just say plus or minus 10%. So you know your moisture load, but we don't necessarily always know the moisture removal capability of the inverter system and its minimum run capacity.
Yeah.
So we need to know that data, and we need to know the load calculation data. Then when we have those two worlds, one, it's going to let us know what we have to do for dehumidification, right? Like either the unit's going to handle it, it's going to not handle it, and in super humid climates, it's more than likely not going to handle it. Like no equipment's going to handle that. That means you got to put in, let's say, a dehumidifier. So how big does that dehumidifier need to be? And some people would probably say as big as you want it to be, which I don't 100% agree with that. I don't want to make it too big because I don't want to be just blasted heat in my house through the duct system. And I'm not saying that's a huge problem because bigger dehumidifier removes the moisture, boom, boom, problem solved. I get that. But then you could get like blasts of hot, cold if it's
Yeah,
running.
you just dump it in hot air, right?
It becomes a problem of mixing that air and not having hot air blowing on you and then cold air blowing on you and vice versa. You know?
So she's gonna work on it. You heard it here. You heard it first on the grapevine.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about every step of the way.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I'm kind of curious too about something that you know, you're asking Chris about this stuff, and this is turning in the back of my head, like how, and I'm gonna be honest, I haven't actually used the Conduit app yet, because it won't work on my iPad, and I wasn't aware tonight, but before tonight that it would work on an iPhone. So I might have to talk to you about testing that out at some point in time. But I'm curious, how easy is it to make like a second load calculation with a modification on it, or say add a room onto a house? Say you're going to do, somebody's doing like an addition onto a house, and I know that normally it's set up to do scanning of an existing house, but say I want to scan an existing house and then add a room or add a couple of rooms onto the side of a house. How easy is it to do that in the app?
Yeah. So that one's going to be a little bit harder. It's definitely, you can add a room if you have reference walls to help you guide, like how big is this room going to be and roughly how big are the windows going to be. So you can definitely do that. If you wanted to add like, 5,000 square feet onto your original floor plan, be a lot harder. But if you wanted to add 500, probably be very, very simple and very easy to do so. And then the simulation of like different results, if you changed, let's say we upgraded those windows in my parents' house, what would be the impact of going from single pane to double pane? You can very easily do that. You'll just save a version of the report before you make that change and a version after, and you can always change a project whenever you want. So you can actually run your load without the addition, then edit the scan, add on that whole set of rooms that you want to, and then move, then see the results. You could change the windows, you could change any variable that you want and see the results that does have on the load calculation. And I think that's one of my favorite things to do is to show people like, look, you can see the difference that if you made this one upgrade, what it would make. And my favorite is always going from like R0 to, R anything that isn't R0.
Right? Yeah.
But I love doing
I call it R sheetrock.
Yeah.
go R sheetrock to R anything. Yeah, it's such a jump, right?
So is there like a, say like you have 2 or 3 different options. You do a load calc and you're going to change the windows, or maybe you're going to do one where you put attic insulation in, or maybe you're going to do one where you change the windows and attic insulation or air sealing or anything like that. Is there an easy way for a presentation of a comparison between those 3, like to present that?
Like a good, better, best?
Yeah, something like that, kind of like a good, better, best, or a way that the homeowner and the contractor can see that comparison or very easily compare those.
I love this because Michael House always does that. He'll do 3 different loads and compare them. It's really cool.
It's funny you bring this up because this is exactly something that we are figuring out. How do we design this in an easy to navigate and effective way? We want to improve the way we release our reports now. So right now there's a customer facing report, which is very high level, a little bit prettier. And then we have the manual J report. And we're like, we need better reporting that can help showcase what these different interventions in a home can look like. Right now, we don't, like, the best way would be to print out those 3 different reports every time you make a change. And it's very easy to do so, but we definitely want to make it easier to compare what is the difference, because I think most homeowners aren't even thinking about what else can they do to their home to improve their comfort or the efficiency levels.
Yeah, I think most homeowners aren't
Yeah.
thinking about that, and I honestly think most contractors aren't thinking about that.
Yeah, there's only like 500 people out there wanting that, but it'd be really nice. We'd
You know,
appreciate it.
It's just like one of those things that what did
Permanent load reduction.
there you go. Luke Peterson started that. It's called he calls it permanent load reduction. I was like, that's a heck of a way to put it, right?
So I asked him where he got that from, and he's like, "Well, I heard it from you. You said it on the panel." And I was like, "Did I?" And I was like, "Well, I've heard it in weatherization." So I'll tell you, that stems from weatherization customers. That's
Okay.
You heard it from you, Chris?
Yeah, I said it on the panel.
Oh, you got to own that. Like, yeah, you heard it from me.
No,
Come on now.
I thought about trying to own it, but I can't because it's already been owned. But like the weatherization community, man, they're all about that. Like that's what they do. That's what they know. They're very good at this. That's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And like we'll be at BPA, the Building Performance Association conference, not next week, but it's next week. I'll be there. Eric, you'll be
National
there.
Home Performance Conference. Yeah, you and I are going to be there.
Shelby, you're gonna be there, right? Yep, Shelby's gonna be there.
I'll be
Mike,
there.
Who needs a plus one?
yeah.
Where's it at? What state? Where you at?
Minneapolis. You don't own enough coke.
Oh, yeah. I threw my jacket out.
Man, headquarters. I'll be there. No, but you're going to learn from a lot of those customers there. They know a lot about permanent load reduction. This is what they do.
Yeah.
And man, it's eye opener. You know, my first time I went was in Nashville. That was 2 years ago. First, like big time home performance conference I went to. And I'm like working the booth and I'm talking HVAC. And I'm hearing these guys talk permanent load reduction or load reduction in my ear. And I'm just like, man, give it to me. They know their stuff. Like, you know how like in HVAC, we know it. Like we just know it. Like they literally just know it. It's cool. I wish HVAC companies and let's just say home performance permanent load reduction companies started teaming up more because man, we would have some cool stuff happening.
I'm trying, man.
Yep.
Trying to hook these boys up. But
Yeah, I mean, the more we combine the home performance or building performance world, you know, that world that works on the shell and the HVAC, the more that those two worlds connect, man, it's a lot better for everybody, and the customer gets the benefit. Huge benefits out of that.
Seriously. Absolutely, man. We got to touch upon with another podcast with this whole thing, man. I feel something there. Write that down. Talk. What was it? Action items? Is that what you're drilling into us?
Oh, I don't have any action items tonight.
Put it in the Google Sheets.
What? I know. It's kind of a first, man. I am working though. Like I have literally worked all weekend, but that's okay. I've been.
That's good.
I hate to say I'm behind the power curve. I'm not. I kind of am though. Like I'm gonna take a couple days vacation next week, and so I'm getting ready for BPA. So like I have a presentation that has to be built, and just to let you know what I'm working on. I don't care to leak it out, but like forecasting is something that we're working on with our tool, and so I had to get it done so it could be turned in, so it could go into development, and I had to put some finishing touches on it.
Listen, you got to do what you got to do to keep that job because our YouTube channel is only pulling in a big fat goose egg. So
that's right. That's right. Got to pay them.
Like, comment, and subscribe, please.
So, Shelby, do you want to lead us into the close with some awesome finishing statements?
That's a lot of pressure to put on put on last minute. Awesome finishing.
Let's go to a commercial.
How about this question? What are you looking forward to up at the BPA National Home Performance Conference? Because we're going
to see Chris and Eric, of course.
We leave in a week, right? We'll be there in a week.
Easy answer. Yeah. See Chris and Eric. No, it's a great group of people. That's true. It really is an awesome group of people. And this year, actually, it'll be really nice because I don't have a booth, so I can just walk around and actually talk to people, which will be really, really lovely. So I'll be visiting both of you. Don't worry, I won't camp there, but I will come spend some time. And I'm looking forward to actually going to some sessions this year, because last year I didn't get a chance to go to as many as I would like, but the content is just phenomenal.
Where am I going to come steal good candy bars from?
I'll bring some. I'll bring some. Don't worry.
So I will tell you,
If if you see Conduit Tech at a show, they have the best candy bars at their table. They got little minis, whole barrel full of them there.
Because I pretty much live off of caffeine and sugar. It's the ingredients to a healthy diet, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a public good.
It's the way we go to the shows. But I mean, I think last year was where I met you guys right at the Home Performance Conference in Seattle last year.
It was, yes. It's a great day.
Because we were our booths were right across from each other, and I'm like,
dude,
who is that Conduit Tech?
Who does the whole BPA conference, man? Who's in charge of that? Because I got to tell them they got to come down to Florida one year, man.
BPA, the Building Performance Association. That's who's in charge of it.
Well, they need to start coming to a warmer climate, bro.
here's my plug. All right, Shelby, don't miss this panel discussion. Don't miss it. It's gonna be good.
Dude, Gary Nelson, John Tooley? Say
Gary
what?
Nelson, John Tooley, me, Jake
No
McAlpin,
way.
Fox, and Bill Graver. It's gonna be a killer session.
Tell Bill I said hi, all right?
If anybody's going, I'd highly recommend it. I'm just saying, we're gonna be talking quite a bit about load reduction, HVAC. You know, and I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm just gonna say it's gonna be real talk, if you know what I mean. Real talk. Real project, real things that happened. How did we handle it?
If I give you $100, can you record that for me?
Somebody asked me that in the chat the other day. They were like, "Hey, is this going to be recorded and shared?" I don't have the answer to that. I think
it's a big fat no. I mean, so we talking 200?
Yes, I can probably go to that too. I'm excited because I won't be I have a workshop to put on right before that happens. So
nice. Eric, you still got that GoPro with the it's good audio on it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. Hit me up. You got my email. Thanks, Jason, for showing up, bro.
Hey,
He's
you know what? Somebody really
chats.
smart, and I'm not going to name any names here, sent me a message a little bit ago and said, "Hey, since we're putting this on a podcast, we might want to read those comments when we put them on the screen, because they're going to have a really
forgot about that.
time reading this."
Yeah.
Chris is like, "Oh man."
He's like,
You just told him, so we don't have to now.
Hey,
As
sorry
long as-
everybody out there in podcast land.
Yeah, sorry,
I forgot
guys.
to read the comments to you.
join us live, all right?
So if you want to know what all those comments were, just hop on the YouTube and watch the recording of that.
Man, we're just casting a wide net, Eric. We're just casting a wide net and
That's
filtering them all back to the show.
That's
That
it.
is the game.
That's it.
All right. Shelby, I've got to go eat some of my kids' candy.
I love that.
What
It's
a
nice
guy.
to see all of you today.
Yeah,
All
thanks for coming on.
Coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Shelby. We will see you in a week.
Next week.
Next week,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.